Good evening. It's 7:06 on February 18th, 2020, and this is the Board of Health meeting for Norfolk, Massachusetts. And tonight we have a couple of public hearings, and the first one is, I'm going to read this is a variance hearing from the Board of Health, for the Board of Health Regulations, is called to order for 9 Noon Hill Avenue, and it is my duty to inform you that you will have to provide the Board of Health with data to support your request for a waiver of Board of Health requirements, and that if you do not receive the waiver, it will do manifest injustice. You will also have to show that what you intend to do is environmentally acceptable. So, who is here for Noon Hill? Did I speak up?
Three-seater, it's
First?
three-seater. Three-seater is first.
Three-seater, sorry. And I think I said Noon Hill.
You did.
I'm just reading because of the order that was in.
Oh,
and
sorry.
I apologize, even though it was in a different order on here. So Three-Seater Road is first variance hearing. I apologize. Okay.
No problem.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening, Jim Susi with United Consultants. We were here back in December requesting 2 waivers. One being use a sieve analysis in lieu of in situ perk tests, and the other is to allow leaching area 26 from a BVW where 50 is required. During the agent's review of the plan, he came up with one more waiver that was required, and that's to allow a leaching facility 10 feet from a basement where 20 is required. Now it is a walkout basement, but Wade brought it to my attention that the bottom of the system is higher than the slab elevation, so therefore we need the waiver. In either case, we've had a retaining wall with a 40 mil barrier on the back side of it, all the way around in that area for breakout and whatnot. So that should prevent anything from getting to the basement.
Do you have any questions, Eileen, or should I ask Wade to
I do
weigh in
not have
on
any
it
questions.
for us?
Well, it's pretty straightforward, what Jim mentioned. There's just one variance that was missing from the last December 3rd hearing. I do appreciate the engineering company being quick, because the meeting came up and everybody was rushing in with their work coming in, and then after the variance were granted, I looked at the plans and there's one more left. So to keep the permit going ahead, we just have to accept that particular variance. It's pretty safe. They have an impervious barrier between the leaching area and the floor of the house, and it's a technical dimension that's required, 20 feet, proposing 10.
Okay.
Are there any health concerns with that, having
No.
the distance? Okay.
No, because the barrier's there. And it's just...
Because the barriers.
The barrier is there. It's impervious barrier, so if the effluent travels sideways, it'll hit the barrier and go down.
Mhm.
So it won't travel and go against the house. That's the theory behind it.
Okay, so I don't have any other questions. Do you have any questions?
No.
So I guess, can I make the motion?
You can, you should probably ask if there's anybody in the audience has any comments.
Yeah.
No, okay. So, I make a motion that the variance request is accepted to allow the soil absorption system 10 feet to a foundation where 20 is required. And also, if the board seeks to approve the variation, then the following items need to be addressed. So we did seek to approve at least I'm making the motion that we approve it. A suitable document is recorded in the Norfolk County Registry of Deeds, which signifies that no more than 1 bedroom can occupy the building. And a suitable document is recorded in the Norfolk County Registry of Deeds, which signifies that the Elgin in-drain system by Elgin Corporation is serving the dwelling.
Betsy, do you have those?
Yes, I do. Oh, they're in the, sorry, they're in the, do you need it?
Well, I was just gonna show that
Oh, yeah, it's
We-
been
we
submitted.
had it.
Yes, it's been
I
submitted.
submitted
We
a
have it.
sample deed restriction this afternoon to Betsy
Yeah,
that
I gave it to Waze.
covered both of those items.
Okay.
So
So,
that's done.
I second the motion.
all in favor?
Aye. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome, thank you. Okay, and this,
Huh?
I'll let the-
Oh, I know, it's okay, we have it.
okay. So, the second variance hearing is for a septic system upgrade at 9 Noon Hill Avenue. Is somebody here for 9 Noon Hill?
Yeah, Bob Bay is here, and I actually have those plans, Bob, I think.
Since I only have one, but I can share it. Oh.
I think I have it electronically, but I don't remember if I do or not. I guess I don't.
Okay, well, we're a small group. Yeah.
So we have a existing three-bedroom house with a failed septic system. As you probably know, groundwater is high in this neighborhood. And designed it for a three-bedroom system, but we were unable to do the perk test on site because of high groundwater. So I'm asking for one variance to do a sieve test analysis in lieu of a traditional percolation test. Everything fits within the site, and it actually makes you go to the higher extreme, so I think it's probably even more conservative than if we were able to do one on site.
Okay, so, any questions in the audience? No? Wade, do you have?
Do you guys understand what a sieve analysis is? It's a lab
Yeah.
test of the soils, breaking it down. Okay.
Mhm.
But
As opposed to a percolation test?
correct. And for
Okay.
them to go
Right.
forth with the permit and the approval of the application and the permit, the board would have to accept the sieve analysis instead of the percolation test.
Okay, I think we're good, so, do you want to make a motion? I'll make a motion.
Sure, go ahead.
I'll make a
I'm
motion
in second
to
position today.
allow a variance for the use of a sieve analysis in lieu of a percolation test in accordance with 310 CMR 15.104 and 15.105. And along with this variance, suitable document to be recorded at the Norfolk County Registry of Deeds, which signifies that no garbage grinder shall be installed or used in the dwelling on subject property, and that an alternative system is serving the property. And that a suitable document to be recorded at the Norfolk County Registry of Deeds, which signifies that the Elgin in-drain system by Elgin Corporation is serving the building. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
All those in favor?
I have to second it first.
Okay.
I second the motion.
I am in favor.
Aye.
Okay. Okay, good.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right. So, next, we have no appointments, and the minutes, have you had a chance to review the minutes from the last meeting? So Betsy, I think I found one thing.
Yeah, I must have forgot the 8, I added it.
Right, and then, yeah, so that,
Wow, you're good.
so, there was a slight change. It says the next regular Board of Health meeting was scheduled on January 28th, subsequently rescheduled to February 18th. So it's
I
correct now.
corrected it.
So, can I have a motion to approve the minutes of the December 3rd, 2019 meeting of the Board of Health?
I so move.
All in
I
favor?
second it.
You second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Okay.
All right, so that's done. Board of Health correspondence, I don't have anything new except this pile in front of me. And I'll sign this before I, okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
There's a few in there, I think I tabbed them.
Thank you. So, new and old business. tonight, we hope to discuss the revision to the Norfolk Board of Health on-site sewage disposal regulations. And
Did you guys,
I did.
Yes.
Mr. President, is Howard Road, is that fine to follow?
Yes.
To cross out in the yellows?
So as for kind of the, at least my little note, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, what were you?
No,
didn't
I
hear
had a
what you
couple of
said.
questions
Yeah.
that came up at dinner time.
Okay, that-
Nice.
Yeah, well, we talk about all that stuff over dinner. So there was a couple, and please correct me and point me to the right paragraph, should this be already in there that I couldn't see. So let's say like on one of these, there's now a deed restriction to restrict the garbage grinder on the
Correct.
property.
Correct.
So my question becomes, how does that get policed? So let's say I go to Lowe's and I put in my own garbage grinder,
Okay.
right? Although but there's a deed restriction on the property. Who's responsible for that? So I go to sell my house. Is it the real estate agent who puts in the garbage grinder, or does somebody, the building inspector? Nobody comes and inspects your house when you're going to sell your house. What happens with
I
that?
think it's more, you're right, the police is loose, it's no one's there looking for it. But people who are buying their homes, they're aware of the garbage grinder shouldn't be inserted in their house because it could affect their septic system. So in a sense, it's more like a liability protection against the town. Saying if anybody starts pointing fingers, who's at fault? That'd be one thing. And two, unexpected people buying homes will find out, oh, this garbage grinder shouldn't be here, because if it is, there's a penalty down the road that my system might fail early. So it's more like a warning.
Okay, but it's nothing like, so I could, as a home buyer, I find, I figure out after I bought my house there's a garbage grinder, and I want to take it out.
Yeah.
So can I go back against the previous owner?
I don't know. I'm not an attorney, but I do know of one case where a Title V inspector did a Title V inspection on a home and passed it, and on the form it says, is there a garbage grinder or not? And he checked off no. And a person went to the house, they found out there was a garbage grinder in it, and because of that, they walked away from the sale. So in a sense, it can be looked at different ways, interpreted different ways.
Okay, I was just curious, but that was actually one question that came up at dinner today. And so this is a more interesting question. So let's say, what we're looking at now is with the garbage grinder, which is now going to be the builder's option.
Designer's option.
Designer's option.
Owner's option.
Okay, so that it reduces the size of the septic system that's needed if you choose not to. And if you
Correct.
choose to, you have to increase it by 50%.
Correct.
Okay, so here's my question. Can I take out my garbage grinder and put in another bedroom?
No, that's a good question. That's like stage 2. I did think about that, but I didn't put it into this proposal yet because I was still thinking about it. And what you're looking at more is like recertifying an existing system to elevate the garbage grinder design, or to eliminate the garbage grinder design. And I probably would see something of that maybe in a Form 1. The town has a Form 1. If you come with a building permit altering your home, so you have a Form 1 that the Board of Health gets to review, and I have the privilege of reviewing it. And I look at the building project and seeing how it could affect the wells or the septic system or anything. So during that time, that's probably where I end up seeing it. So someone has a pre-existing home with a garbage grinder in it, and they don't have a garbage grinder in it. So they're sitting there with an
Right.
oversized septic system in their
so I get
house.
3 bedrooms and make it 4 bedrooms, because
Well-
potentially it could be 4.5 bedrooms. Which,
Well, okay, if you have a 3-bedroom, you probably have enough for maybe a 5-bedroom. Let me see, you got 50% more. Let's say 4 bedrooms, right? So you want to go for an extra bedroom. You want to capitalize on it. So thinking about that, and I was writing a little note because I was going to talk to you about it tonight, is that possibly what you need to do. Let me see if I can look through my notes. I don't have it with me, I'll just tell you what I thought. You'd have to recertify your permit. And a recertification of the permit would probably go through a process of reapplying for a new disposal system construction permit, where the engineer or sanitarian would recalculate the design criteria on it and changing it from a design with a garbage grinder to a design without a garbage grinder to it. And that would be reviewed as a regular application. And the reason for that is you could say, well, it's already designed, but there are just certain areas of the town where bedrooms are limited due to the Zone 2s, the public water supply. So there are some areas in the town where they might have a 4-bedroom design with a garbage grinder, but they're on a 40,000 square foot lot, and they're not allowed to go with 5 bedrooms because of the nitrogen loading, not because of the size of the septic system. So that's where the recertification of an existing system would come into play. And I'm working on that, but that's how I saw it working out.
Do we need to have that?
Yeah, now that we're talking about it,
Yeah,
definitely,
okay.
definitely. Having like a section, existing systems, and how do you reduce it back into a non-grinder design.
Okay.
Yeah. But I would say it would have to go through some kind of strict protocol on that, because you don't want everybody just running around and doing
Right,
it.
taking out their garbage grinders and adding new bedrooms.
Or just assuming it would happen. It's more that the assumption would happen. And also it probably would have to have a Title V inspection to show the hydraulics of the system, if it's still working, because you don't want to add on an extra bedroom if the system isn't working. New application with design flow recalculations, and then also maybe even a building permit review, making sure that the garbage grinder is not on site. So that would have to be also an issue too, because you can come in and recertify it. So either the engineer who's recertifying the design calculations would have to, I guess, in a recertification state, there is not a garbage grinder at the time.
Jim Susi has a question or a comment.
This is regarding the recertification. Would that just have to be 1 8.5 by 11 sheet with calculations on it, or would you need a new plan and whatever?
That's a good question. You'd be working off an existing permit, and you would want it to recertify that permit. So you wouldn't have to like recertify lot lines, or maybe not even recertify the system itself.
All we really recertify is the capacity for the system to handle what we're anticipating to give it.
Yeah.
Or it will.
And then some kind of design to show, to relate the design to the design itself, like the plot plan, the home, and the septic system. You can probably take the existing as-built and use that.
Well, that's kind of what I'm getting to, is
Yeah.
if we just go off of, plans that you guys already have, or do we have to do a new plan just to recertify? I agree with you, having a Title V done as part of the certification process. I'm just trying to get a handle on what the full process is gonna be, because if you guys are changing the bylaw, then I'm sure I'm gonna be getting a bunch of calls.
Yeah, I would say, as of right now talking, it's still the board's decision on it. I'm just throwing, coordinating it for them. Yeah, there would have to be some kind of system where it wouldn't be that costly to the homeowner.
Okay,
Because it doesn't make any sense to recertify a piece of property where you already have an active permit.
Just simple calculations that we've got X many feet of trenches, is what the original loading rate was, boom, 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 here's what it should be able to handle if they did take out the grinder to get the gallons.
Because part of recertification is making note that the grinder design is no longer there anymore. Now you changed the system itself for a different use. And so that different use is now going forth with the property, where the old use has now been discontinued. And the reason why it's going forward, because it's been recertified, it's been re-examined, and now it's going forth that way.
So would there have to be a whole new inspection of the septic system? Because say if it was, I don't know, 25 years old or something, and
Yes,
you've been using a garbage grinder for that period of time?
Good point. Yeah, that's where the Title V inspection would come
So-
into play, and they would show their inspection would examine it. They have like 24 pages, but also the highlight of the inspection would be the hydraulics of it. They're saying that the system is still flowing properly.
Before the building permit was approved for
Oh,
increase
no,
the...
before the Board of Health would allow the recertification to go through.
Okay.
Because after the recertification goes through, then they have this extra flow, and then they can proceed
Build.
with the building permit if they wanted to.
Okay.
And if they go ahead with it and say that the flow was working, because Title V does a snapshot, what they see that day, that time is what they're certifying. So it has no like length of time, longevity to it. So they go, oh, good, it works fine, I have an extra bedroom, they put it in, and a year later it fails. Well, that's just gonna be, that's gonna just be life. There's really no one to go back at, because everybody's, because you can't predict the future. And you certainly can't predict the futures of septic systems. My God. I don't want to get into that. So it's a risk. It's a small risk, but.
So did you have another question?
Yeah, of course. Again, so I think this was the last question at dinner.
That's okay. That's what we're here for.
All right. I'm not sure how familiar you are with this, so we're looking to put in another town well, and there are some homes that exist over the aquifer that may be feeding that town well. And there
Wait
was.
a minute, what new town well are we going to put in?
Are we looking at
Holbrook
putting
Street?
a town well on what, Gold Street?
No,
Holbrook Street.
Holbrook?
Holbrook Street.
But it's already been approved and it should be online. Not that we're looking towards putting in a new one. That one is going to be online by the spring of this year.
Are
It's
there-
been tested,
Okay.
dug, everything.
How about so are there homes near there that are over the aquifer? Is that correct?
Oh, there should be, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So is there any issue with telling these people that they can or cannot add extra bedrooms?
Oh,
because of
that's
their-
part of Title V. That's a state regulation, and that's where the recertification would come in. As I mentioned earlier, you may have that by recertifying your septic system. You may add on a bedroom or two to your design flow, but there might be cases where your land isn't big enough to absorb the extra bedroom, because you have to have 10,000 square feet per bedroom. So they may go through the recertification. There's no guarantee if the building permit would be allowed for that, for an additional bedroom. So they'd have to do their homework.
Okay. So that's on the homeowner and not necessarily the town.
No, and that'd be going through the permit approval, permit review, and they go, this permit would be denied. Why is it denied? Because you don't have enough land for the nitrogen aggregate program that the state has. You go, oh, okay, what is that? You explain it to them, and then they have a choice either to try to work with the program, because you can have other land somewhere else and add on to it, or you could decrease your bedrooms. Well, anyway, they'll have a denial application, then they can go forth with it how they want to go forth with it.
Does that potentially devalue their property?
I don't know.
What devalue their property?
So I buy a house and it has 2 bedrooms and I want to make it a 3-bedroom because potentially the property size might allow it, but maybe the septic system, because of where we're located over the aquifer to the town well, wouldn't permit that. So you're restricting their ability to do something with their home.
Correct. And it's a state regulation, correct. And that's for the future generations and the current generations for their long-term sustainability of the water, public water. That's a big deal.
No, I get that. I'm trying to
Another
see
re-
it from.
Oh, yeah, but another restriction too is I want a house 85 feet tall. And I can't have it because the zoning's not letting me. So now I got another restriction. Or I want 2 access to the house and I can only have 1. Or there's a lot of restrictions in the world, especially in the building world.
Oh,
So.
all right, good. Thank you. That was
Yeah.
the end of the dinner conversation.
Okay, well, and also the restriction of bedrooms, it's there before the recertification and it's there after recertification. It's there forever. The only way you could probably get around having more bedrooms than your 10,000 square foot per bedroom if you have a pre-existing home, like a house built in the 50s, and it might have 5 bedrooms, but it was built on a 30,000 square foot lot, and since this law came in like in 1995, it would be grandfathered. That's the only way I could see where you could probably get more bedrooms over a nitrogen aggregate, over a zone 2, a public water supply area, than you would for new construction.
So there is a possibility that
There's a possibility now to add value to your property, just because your building's old.
But you're not gonna add another bedroom just because you take out a garbage grinder, because you're already,
It's not a guarantee.
Right.
That's why the recertification program, because there's some parts of town where you're not able to add on bedrooms. because where you are.
I had,
Oh, and also could go out sideways too. It could be zoning. They won't allow you up out your foundation. It could be other ways, or can't go up high too. Could be other restrictions.
so I had a question about, number 7, under, I think that's it, yeah, number 7 under general.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, I kind of went over that again.
Okay.
Yeah.
Permitted, so the new language would be permitted projects and or outdoor affairs, which involve, I think it should be involve,
Okay.
outdoor activities for a period of 4 hours or longer per day shall provide sanitary facilities as determined by the Board of Health or health agent. So I guess I'm not sure about, what is the definition of affairs? Is that public, private? I don't know.
Well, it's
Is it both?
well,
I have a,
I'm not really sure what the definition of outdoor affairs would be, but it's something you'd be determined by you or the health agent. I guess what I'm trying to prevent is maybe work being done by a group, a company, something like that, and they're not providing sanitary facilities for their workers. And during the day's work, they end up going to the woods somewhere to relieve themselves, and it could be someone else's backyard.
I mean, outdoor affair, I would think would be like the community day or.
yeah, but I was, but it's not a private, well, I guess it could be a private affair. A company would be a private affair, I guess. Both,
could be.
public or, I don't know, do you want to say public or private or not, or?
I don't know, it's up for discussion.
I mean, if I had a wedding outside in my yard, would I have to provide a porta potty or could they use the house?
Well, if you were gonna have 200 people, in your backyard with a tent, I don't know.
It's a private affair, you'd have to discuss it with the person who's organizing it.
But does that mean they have to come to you for a permit or something?
Do we have permits for porta johns?
We don't permit for porta
Yeah,
potties
no.
anymore.
It's like if you have an activity and someone's yelling, I have people in my backyard defecating and it's going for 3 days because they're doing a project there. It gives some kind of teeth for the Board of Health to control the project. They can go up to the person saying, we have a local regulation, if you have people out here working, or it could be some kind of affair, it could be maybe a class, maybe a yoga class somewhere, and they say, we require that you have porta johns for your guests or for your activity.
Yeah, I guess it's just vague to me. I heard recently of
And
a
this is,
softball tournament that was 3 days long, that was run by the
That would be an
rec
outdoor affair.
department. Yeah, and apparently we got feedback that there were not enough porta potties there. How do you determine, who determines this, or how does it determine? Is it something that
there is
you
actually, there is
kind of
a,
open this up here?
well, this is fine, that's why we're talking tonight, this is why it was rewritten a little bit. Yeah, porta johns have a calculation of so many people per porta john, and for the gender also. And the porta john industry has become huge. They now have porta johns on wheels and trailers. They look great for like temporary shutdowns. I was at a mall the other day and they had a temporary shutdown of a bathroom, and they had the porta john. You had to walk outside. There was a trailer. I've been outside like jazz festivals and stuff. We have hundreds of people, and they have trailers with 40, 50 toilets inside of it. And some beaches have I rent out trailers for the whole season to have people use porta johns, and then they have the small ones. But these companies now have a number ratio per porta john versus your activity.
So, do we have permitted, what's a permitted project? I guess I don't understand the
If someone's
definition.
building a house somewhere,
Okay,
that'd
so
be a
that would be
permitted.
it's temporary.
You had
but
a fair going on. and
A
you had food
fair,
com-
community day, or
Well, if-
say Stony Brook Fair?
Yeah, if it's permitted by someone.
That's permitted by
If,
some?
if it's permitted, well, Board of
looking
Health,
at you.
Board of Health would be permitted if you have like food establishments there, that'd probably be permitted. But I put permitted there in case it's some kind of a different activity and there's not enough facilities for people to relieve themselves, to control the situation, have some kind of
So-
teeth.
This is kind of like after the fact then.
Or during the fact. I had an example once. I was asked to go to this woman's house, and she had a house being built next to her. It's actually a subdivision being next to her, and a guy who's building, and it wasn't in this town, and the guy who's building the subdivision didn't provide any porta-johns for his employees. And so they were using her backyard as a toilet for a week or so. And she was going through a lot of stuff with her family. Her brother died, and she was taking care of all that. And they just wouldn't listen to her. They were laughing at her and just doing what they had to do. And going out there talking to the project manager of the project, he didn't really care either. So there's no teeth. And so I actually experienced something like that. I wanted to help out the lady and to stop it. And eventually, it did stop, and policy like this came in, and porta-johns were required when you have activities 4 hours or more. Give your people a place to relieve themselves, don't go into someone else's private property and use it.
So I guess this, this statement, number 7, gives us just some direction for people, the Board of Health, so that if an organization calls and says to Betsy, I'm gonna have this fair, are there any regulations, or is there anything I have to do, then she would probably ask you, there are gonna be so many people, how many porta potties do they have? Is that how this would all work, I guess?
It could work like that, or the
Could.
Board of Health could even write to another agency that could be permitting activities in town, saying, you know, we have a regulation, if you have your activities over 4 hours, you know, make sure that your permit application has something to do with also providing porta-johns or some kind of relief for the people at the activity.
Do we have people that permit those outdoor activities? Do people apply for a permit in the town to do community day or a softball tournament?
For
or
food permits, yes. As far as the fair itself, I'm assuming it's the Board of Selectmen.
Okay. So do we need to provide this information to the Board of Selectmen so that they know that there's a porta-john requirement?
It's already in the regulation.
Yeah, it's
It's
there.
been
I
just
just
been
didn't
reworded.
understand.
Okay.
Right.
And actually, there
Yeah.
has been one case in town, I'm not gonna mention, where the Board of Health was asked about the porta-johns and numbers, and they responded to them. And they helped out the activity, just for some kind of guideline for the person giving out the activity, what he needed to have out there. Because they're saying, gee, you need porta-johns for your people, like, all right, rents out one, or not, you know, so it's just some help, some guidance. It's not a problem in town, I haven't seen a problem, but it's good to have on the books.
Sure, no, I think it's a good idea.
Okay, so, the
Did that
only,
answer all your questions?
yeah, except, well, I did have,
What-
this didn't make any sense to me.
Do you want, how about, there's a lot of stuff on in this, how about,
Well,
oh, go ahead.
I was going to page 6, under specifications for system design. Number 13, 14, 15, 16. So 13 is struck out.
Or,
I
well,
didn't understand, this didn't make sense to me,
okay.
what you were doing here.
okay, so 13, the first 13, well, the second 13, let's go back to the first 13. First 13 is to omit it, the sentence entirely. Just take it out of the regulations altogether. And that means if you went that route, that means the current paragraphs would be renumbered. Just simple. If you don't want to omit that part of the regulation,
Oh, if you don't want to.
you don't want to use another option, I'm just throwing at you, is that, this is for the public, this is regarding the pump electrical system shall be equipped with a transfer switch to allow connection to a generator. The option was to just take it out altogether. If someone wants to buy a generator switch for their pump, in their pump chamber, they can go out and buy it on their own, other than being a town regulation. But if you feel strong enough to have it, that's fine too. And then I was also offering, if you want to have an electrical pump system be equipped with a transfer switch to allow connection to a generator, also have the buildings that are dependent on private wells for portable water source may opt out of this requirement, because if the electricity is gone, their well isn't running. And also another option too would be if the pump chamber tank designed is designed to meet one-day design flow emergency storage capacity, they may opt out of this requirement also.
Okay, so I didn't realize
So-
it was either.
Yeah. So if you did lose electricity, you'd have enough volume in your tank for one-day design flow for a backup. But still going out in town, I still ask people about the question about the generator switch, and I'm still getting, even though it seems to be unpopular, when I ask people, it becomes very popular. I was at this one house for a complaint, and we were in this basement, talking about something, and I said, "Oh, you got a gen switch? That's great." And we started talking about it, and I said, "This is the regulation. What do you think about being eliminated from generation from the regulation?" Because no, I really like it a lot. So when I bought the house, it had the gen switch in it, and he said he used it a few times when electricity went down. So he liked it, and he had a small child. And they said, when you have a small child, you want to make sure you have electricity and things work in your house.
So let me just understand how this process works. First of all, there was a question that Eileen asked at the beginning about could people, if they took out their garbage line, to add another bedroom, and we went through a long discussion, and you said you were going to add more information. Is
Yeah.
that correct?
That's correct. That's for
That's
the
not on this?
It's not on here. No. Oh no, this isn't for something I would even expect you guys to even approve tonight. This is something just to absorb it, look at, the public can hear it. This is for you just to look at it, read it, then come back again and say, I think this is good, it's not good. Or can you work on it again? This isn't something you should take it and run off with it. You should be really careful about it and think about it a little bit. There's still some other changes in here we haven't talked about, which I think we should at least touch a little bit tonight before we go on to something else, because I've introduced some other things here too. I just want to make sure you understand what the change is. So if the public does approach you, you'll have to understand that also the public can talk about it too if they want to.
Yes, but just so I understand the process, when we finally have decided, when we get a final copy, then we will have a public hearing.
But even before that, I would recommend to mail out this draft that you guys like to people, to the community, the business folks that use it all the time for their comments. And that would be the on-site septic system people, that'd be the Title V inspectors, that'd be the engineers, and we could post it on the website for like a comment, a period for comments, and then you would receive it, or you may not receive any. At least you gave them a chance, and then I'd recommend a public hearing.
Okay, so
'Cause-
that can go, those things can happen at the same time. The letter goes out to the contractors, also is posted on the website.
We have copies
Okay.
here, and they can come in.
Okay.
And what you find, I did back in, was it 2015, I think it was, I wrote these regulations that we're changing now from the previous one, and I think we were pretty good, and we did send out a lot. I mean, Betsy helped out a lot. We sent out a lot of copies, electronic copies, stuff to try to get feedback and stuff. And we got some in my right little corner, a couple cents on the side. That was fine. And there was like good information coming in. And then when they had the public hearing, like maybe one person was there and they said a few things. And the regulations were changed a little bit from some of the comments that people had
Sure.
that were coming, that use it all the time.
Right, and those folks understand Title V, what's happening with
Well,
it, so
yeah,
you
they
would
would-
expect.
They would see that as a different impact.
Right.
We're looking at it as a regulatory impact. What's good for you. They're looking at it as, oh man, what's good for me as a contractor, as a designer, or what's good for my client. And then the homeowner's going, well, what's good for me? Whoa, you guys have changed the regs. So you get different perspectives of different people that are being affected by this regulation.
Okay, so I guess maybe we should have hit every yellow
Yeah, I
area.
think so.
So on page 1 under definitions, what an upgrade means? Is
Yeah,
that-
I broke down a repair. I broke down what you could do to a septic system. You could upgrade it, and that's like a pre-existing non-conforming system, and which includes variances, but there's no increase in design flow. That's what an upgrade would mean if someone comes out with an upgrade. Then you got a repair, and a repair could be replace a component or components from the existing system that again does not increase design flow. We get a lot of repairs, distribution boxes are replaced, maybe a tank, maybe pipes are replaced, so it's smaller than an upgrade. The new construction is for a system that's built for a building that's proposed, under construction, or newly constructed, and an increase in design flow for an existing system serving a construction project that would generate additional wastewater flow. Well, that means you have new construction, house being built from just a virgin piece of land in a house, that's new construction. Or if you get your home, you want to add on a bedroom, you're increasing design flow, that's another new construction. So it's just laid out there so people can understand. And then alter means any kind of minor modification or change to an existing system. That's like if the tank might be too low and you want to put a chimney on it, technically you should get a permit on it. They want to change a pipe around or something like that, just some really small minor modifications to it. We can call it a minor. So then we have different types of alterations to a septic system.
Okay, so this just clarifies things for folks.
Yeah.
But they're additions to what's in there right now. These definitions were not there.
Correct,
Okay.
correct.
Okay. And then I think we talked about number 7 under general.
Yeah. No, everything in yellow was proposed. Those
Right.
words added. Anything striked out was existing, and I'm asking it to be omitted. This regulation itself, you take all the yellow out, this is what you have existing. It's what's currently right now in play. Okay, reason we talked about 7.
Right?
And then now we're into section 2, general procedures for obtaining a disposal system construction permit. And number 9 is added on.
So, yeah, could you give us some guidance? about
Yeah,
why-
this is kind of like a biggie. Talked to a few people around it. It's kind of assumed you can do it, then it's assumed that you can't do it. Not many people will do it. This is a reserve area utilized as replacement for a failed system. If you have a new construction, as you say, you have a reserve required to replace the primary, and it's shown on the plan. It's required for new construction. And typically, when your system fails, the reserves are usually ignored, and they go out with more test holes, and they design you a new septic system. All right. So in this case, in some cases, you may be able to use your previous reserve that was designed for your first construction of the system. And this allows someone, a homeowner, to possibly use that instead of going through a whole new design. This would save the homeowner money. That's basically what it comes down to, in a sense, and also, but also there's conditions on this. You can't just, and the conditions are dealing with disposal system construction permits for new construction approved after April 15th, 1995. That's when Title V changed into more of what you see today. And they may opt to utilize a design reserve area as a replacement for a failed primary soil absorption system. And the work will require a new disposal systems construction permit application requesting a repair or emergency status. And that's where the repair definition comes into play. Go back to see what a repair means. That means to replace a component or components to an existing system that will not involve an increase in design flow. So this is like for someone who might have a failed system, they don't do anything to their house, they just want to get their house up and running again so they can use the bathroom and water and create wastewater. And this is the way they can deal with it. They have a permit in town, it looks good, why not use it? And so it's either repair or emergency status. There'd be no increase in original design. Flow would be allowed under this application. Only the original reserve area location will be allowed under this application. It's like you have a reserve here, so we'd like to put it over here because we're going to build garages. No, it's exactly where the original permit said it was going to be. No modifications or change to the original soil absorption system components may be allowed under this application. Nowadays, we have many different types of components for on-site septic system. You got the Coltex, you got the Infiltrate, you got plastic units. Now you got the Elgin, which is like a sandwich plastic units with strappings around it, different sizes and stuff. So what the original designer thought of or put in a design and the town approved, there's a pipe and stone, then reserves can be pipe and stone. It can't be, oh gee, I know infiltrated could be a cheaper unit, can I use infiltrators? No. The original reserve said pipe and stone, that's what your replacement would be. So there's no playing around or trying to alter or change the reserve components. And of course, this has to be guided by someone, a licensed professional, because I'm not gonna do it. I'm not the clerk of the works. I just approve permits, make sure they go in. It'd be I certified as-built produced by the original designer, original design company, a Massachusetts professional registered engineer, or a Massachusetts registered sanitarian, will accompany the certificate of compliance document and completion of the work. So it is overviewed by a professional. It's not just the contractor himself. There'd be a licensed installer putting it in. Then you'll have a professional showing us the as-built at the end that actually went in.
So if there was a need for a reserve area with a brand-new septic system, and then you use the reserve area, then there's no reserve area.
Correct, because you just used it.
So then, what do you do if the reserve area fails?
Then you have to look at each site's different, you have to see how much land you have. You can explore another different location of it. If it's lot's really, really small and there's no other place to go, you'd have to probably dig out the existing system and then replace it with better material, like with Title V sand and new components for a system. And that would become for a whole new design, and this wouldn't work. This part of the regulation wouldn't work. And then you can use some kind of innovative design if they wanted to. It'd be up to the designer's choice.
What was the reason of putting in a reserve in the first place?
For a backup. The state of Massachusetts is allowing you to build a home and living in it, and you have a primary leaching area, and they're going to have a backup in case the primary fails. The homeowner has another option to keep the house running.
But you just took the backup away by
Yeah.
letting them use the reserve as the
Yeah.
primary.
Yeah, just like you get a
I
flat in a
don't
tire,
know.
you use your reserve tire.
Yeah, but then you go out and you buy a new tire and you keep another reserve, but now we don't have a reserve.
No, you don't have a reserve.
So is this the way it works in other towns?
It could if they wanted to, but I don't know. I don't work in other towns. I'm not sure.
Oh, okay.
It's very rare that reserves are even used. I've been doing this work over 30 years. I've been working for boards of health, and I have never seen anybody come in and asking for if I can put the reserve that was actually designed for the new permit for the home. And if they do ask, when they did ask, a lot of times the systems were really old and the laws changed. Like anything pre-1995, they allow pits, they allow different types of leaching areas we don't allow today, so that was a good excuse. No, now you have to design today's standards. So you couldn't use the old ones, but now we're in 1995, and that's been almost 24 years ago. I mean, it's almost a quarter of a century this new regulations in play. And so I think, and there's a lot of people involved with it. You got soil evaluators now, you got everybody's licensed in this line of work. So
But when you build a new house today, you have to put in a reserve.
you have to have space for reserve, yes.
Right, okay. I don't know, this would be somewhere,
We
one
had
of
some,
those.
I heard some public comment. Did you want to say something?
No, just that I've never been allowed to use the reserve rate. We've always had to go out and re-perk and design a new system.
Did it say in our regs before that you couldn't use a reserve?
No.
Oh, but people never asked the
Well,
question.
this is actually saying you can, but under certain conditions.
Right. Well, I don't know,
Something for more discussion.
I guess so.
Yeah. Because you can walk in as a contractor, say, I want to put this reserve in. I put the primary, can I put the reserve in too? And all of a sudden now it gets loose, there's no overview control. This says, well, yeah, you have to have some kind of a licensed personnel overview it and send an as-built in. I like that part of it.
Well, I'm just thinking of a homeowner that thought the house was built in the 2000 and that the septic system failed, so that homeowner used the reserve and then sells the house, and the next homeowner comes in and there's no reserve.
Is that
They
under
have
a
to
Title,
start
will they
all
know that
over
with a Title
again.
V inspection?
No, they would not run a Title V inspection, but as you're saying, as today, as Mr. Susi just mentioned, he's never been allowed to use the reserve, so he's out there working in another area of the yard of getting the repair going. Depends on how large the land is. And also, they can come from the Board of Health for variances.
Okay, well, that will be something that we'll be interested in hearing comments about.
Yeah, it just opens up the door, allowing people that as an option. I'm just throwing more options, and sometimes options can be a financial relief for some of the people in the community. It's a thriving industry. It's a lucrative industry. I'm just trying to give the homeowner a little bit of a break.
Except for the guy that buys the house after they already used the reserve. And then the septic
Well-
system fails 6 months into the
But
house.
there'd be a permit on file that they've
Yes.
used the reserve.
Yes.
So if you do your due diligence and go to town hall and look up what's been done to your house and all the permits have been pulled for electrical or plumbing or septic, then you're gonna see that before you purchase your house.
That's correct.
Okay.
And nowadays, like today, if you're buying a house and it fails, you're selling a house, it fails Title V, and then you have a septic upgrade, you're not using the reserve, you're going someplace else. So what would be the difference?
You're going someplace?
You're going someplace on the land, you're looking for the repair, you're not using the original reserves, you're going off and making a new area for reserves.
But you're saying you could,
You could, yes,
Yeah.
and it's been
People
going on
just
for decades. It's very.
don't ask to do it.
Correct, yeah. And if you used your reserve, there's more land, more area on the land for the third try.
All right. Okay, so, specifications for system design.
Yes, this is actually a really good one here. It was in the original one that Mr. Domi wrote many years ago, and when I rewrote the regulation, I took it out, and now working in the town for many, many years, I can see why he put it in. So it's actually it's a really good wording to have, and I do compliment him, even though he won't be able to hear me today, but he has some very good ideas, and he's a pretty smart guy. What I'm suggesting is the application for new construction to determine maximum groundwater shall be submitted prior to April 1st within each maximum groundwater season. An application received after April 1st shall be returned to the applicant unless, in the opinion of the health agent, adequate time is available to perform field observations within the maximum groundwater season. Now that means we have a groundwater season December 15th to April 30th for maximum groundwater. And that's because of Mother Nature, groundwater fluctuates, and that's where it's at its highest. And so this is to prevent someone coming in with a 40-lot subdivision on April 28th, putting an application in, and then coming to you guys saying, I put my application in April 28th, and the town can't support it. What's going on? I got to build, so now I want you to allow me to go into May and June to finish this work, and the groundwater's going down, and scientifically, you're not going to get a good design. So this right here gives a deadline of getting applications in. So if someone comes in with a 40-lot subdivision, and April 1st, you're going, well, I can't do it all because there's not enough time. At least they'll know about it, or maybe we could just work something out with just do high groundwater readings and not perks and stuff. It just organizes the scheduling and allows the town to be able to absorb the work coming into town.
So my only thought about this was maximum groundwater season. Is that still, that hasn't changed in
No.
30 years?
No, actually it changed 2015. It's right the next paragraph up. It's from the period from December 15th to April 30th. I think your past one was December 20th to May 29th. So we lengthened that to December 15th, and we shortened it to April 30th, because in May, groundwater, the trees start growing,
Oh,
and they
okay.
start sucking up groundwater, and it's 15th to the 30th, you get a better observation of groundwater.
Okay, oh, but so this is only when they can file for permits? Is that
Well, they
correct?
file for field work, site
Okay.
evaluation,
Right,
and they'll know ahead of time.
okay. Okay. And going down.
To the next 2 paragraphs down. Okay, the current regulations allow, if you have an existing house, you're a homeowner, and you want to add on to your house, and it's June, you're really excited around the kitchen table with your family, let's add on, and it's June, and you call up the town or whatever for a site evaluation, says, oh, you can't do it, because it's considered new construction, add on a bedroom, and you can't do anything till December. And that's 6 months later, and everybody gets all upset because they don't have enough, it's just too far advanced, you want to do it now. So this particular part of the regulation allows existing field work that's been done on abutting properties. So if you're in a subdivision and you want, typically your house might have been built in high groundwater season, or your neighbors. This allows that the project that you want to pursue adding onto your house, that you're able to use old field work that's done for your permit and your abutting permits. And if they have high groundwater, you're able to use that high groundwater for your design to speed up the process. You don't have to wait until the very next high groundwater season. You can use this groundwater season that your neighbors used or that you used. And of course, there's a lot of wheeling and dealing with it. There's a lot of technical aspects on it. A health agent has to approve it. It's based on soil consistency, year and month information was witnessed, soil texture class, models, observation during times of annual high groundwater. So it isn't just because your neighbor has a permit next door, you can use that information. Also, the information is from approved disposal systems construction permits, so it's something that's been approved by the town. And also there's forms that come in that the soil evaluators are required to submit to the town after they do soil work. And they are Form 11, Soil Suitability Assessment for an on-site sewage disposal, and DEP, also Form 12, which is Percolation Test. So these 2 forms have to be filed at the Board of Health within, I think, 60 days after they do field work out in the field. And that gives the town option to either accept it or reject it. And if they don't submit it in after 60 days, then the town has an option to reject it. So if we have these files, these documentations in the file, then that's one more piece of information that someone may be able to use, past information they can use for future development.
So, and there's no limit of how far back you would look at these?
1995, that's when the regulations changed. So you only have 24 years of data, and since you have 24 years of data, in my opinion, why not use it for the benefit of the residents of the town?
So 20 years ago, the data wouldn't have changed?
No.
The
no.
soils wouldn't
Well,
change?
it might change a little bit, but not
But
enough.
not
It
enough.
might change a little bit, not enough to make an impact.
So there's a lot of things that you're looking at anyway, it's not just one thing, other than the
So
test, the perk test.
So that's dealing with all high groundwater. So what happened in the past was, like, for an existing house, this has been altered to use that you can use this information for all new construction. So you could have a subdivision with an empty lot in the middle of it, and it's developed on each side. And the guy in June says, gee, I'd like to build a house on that lot. And the town goes, no, you gotta have high groundwater season for that septic design. And he goes, oh, but I could actually observe the abutting high groundwaters, and if it's satisfied by the town or the health agent, then I'd be able to use that for the design. If it works, then I still have to go out there and perk the land and observe it, but I can use that high groundwater in the neighboring to get exceed my permit going and building it. Because if you have like 3 houses right around this one piece of land, the chance of it to change it's slim, but it could. The health agent could see, well, you got different soils here, so I think we need to go back here in high groundwater season, so you don't have that option. So, but it just gives a tool for someone who wants to build an on-site septic system.
Okay, so moving on, I think we're on to
now we're
number
on page 5, right?
Right.
Okay, everything on page 5 is the same, but number 5. Now, this is dealing with the garbage grinder.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, and this is taking out the garbage grinder and also the document, the deeded document in Norfolk County Registry of Deeds.
Mhm.
But it's also changing that all proposed septic tanks for family dwellings with a design flow of less than 1,000 gallons per day shall meet the design criteria specifications in 310 CMR 15.224, multiple component tanks.
Mhm.
All that means is that you'd have 2 compartment tanks for all tanks. Because the state requires any design flow greater than 1,000 gallons per day, you have to have a 2 compartment tank or 2 tanks in series. What this is saying, what the local Board of Health here would say, we want all tanks to be 2 compartment tanks. And the reason for that is, talking to Mr. Gilbert last time, he was a little concerned of removing the garbage grinder aspect from the design, because he's been here for so long and he's been so used to it. So by requiring a 2 compartment tank on all tanks, is that if anybody does want to design or decide later on that they want a garbage grinder, that the double 2 compartment tank is already there for them. All they have to do is add on to the leaching facility. So, and also you get a much cleaner effluent with a 2 compartment tank than you would with a single wall.
And what about the expense of a 2 compartment tank if you have no
Excellent question.
interest in adding a garbage grinder on in the future, so,
Excellent question. About $500, I understand.
okay.
But you do get a better effluent, and that means you get a cleaner output. That means your leaching facility will last longer.
Okay.
And again, no concern about deed restrictions in terms of, so again, that was the designer's choice question, right, about whether we're putting in a garbage grinder or no garbage grinder?
Right.
So you're crossing out everything that's talking about putting something on the deed.
Yeah, because once you design, for failed systems like we had tonight, if you design without a garbage grinder, because you're required to have all systems have a garbage grinder, only repairs you can not design with a garbage grinder, but you have to put a deed. You have to put a notice on the deed of the property that the house doesn't have a garbage grinder.
So do we need to put that in writing somewhere?
I don't know.
Okay,
It's a good question, right? I
Okay.
didn't put it in it,
all right.
so the deed wouldn't be required. It's a designer's choice.
Well, there are,
You're
Certain-
taking that responsibility of the town, requiring all these garbage grinders to be, all the systems to have a garbage grinder design. You're backing off from that, because garbage grinders should not be encouraged for any on-site septic system. You're asking anybody in the wastewater world to say garbage grinders aren't a good thing to have. You shouldn't have garbage grinders. But this town requires garbage grinders in the design, so right there, it's not a good thing to have, at least in this wastewater world. And there's also responsibilities having a garbage grinder. It should be pumping annually. I'm not sure if everybody knows that. All residential tanks should be pumped annually if you have a garbage grinder. And that's just to remove all the solids that a garbage grinder can put into the system. And that's the reason why the leaching areas increased by 50%. Get more solids, you get a less cleaner
Mhm.
effluent coming out. That's why you have the 2 tanks.
that's fine. Okay, and then we talked about 13, 14, 15, 16. And
That's it.
I think that's it.
Yeah.
So, we'll see another edit.
What would you like the
And then-
edit to be?
Well, you talked about the fact
Oh, the
that if we-
recertification part, yes,
Right.
yes. Yep, that's right.
Okay.
But have you
You
seen any,
add,
how do you feel on the proposals I brought for you tonight? I mean,
I can say that I'm not a specialist
Well-
in sewage disposal.
I know.
But
So
you
that's
put
why
it
I'm,
on TV.
so that's why I'm hoping that we'll get a lot of comments and then that will be guidance for us going forward,
That sounds good.
okay?
sounds-
So at the
that sounds
next Board of
excellent.
Health meeting, we'll take another look at these
Yeah,
and we'll look at them again. And then
Sure.
we'll keep reading over them.
sure.
And then anything to add about the yanking out your garbage grinder and putting in an extra bedroom? Does that go
That's
in here
what I-
anyway?
was
That-
talking about.
Well, that's that
Okay.
recertification.
Right, right.
Okay.
Yeah, that'd be the recertification part.
Right,
Yeah.
just clarify
That's
that a
good.
little
Yeah,
bit
that's
more.
good. I mean, I don't really want to tell you this, but I guess I should, just in openness, is that the last time I wrote a regulation for the town, it sat on the shelf for 5 years. So it's not like I expect this to jump quick. It'd be nice if you did, but yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's right, we just gotta
We
keep
would
moving
like
it
it.
along.
Yeah.
Well, because,
Wait for
well,
5 years.
because the Board of Health was, well, they kind of looked at it, and
Yeah.
it was such a dramatic change. The original one was 28 pages long. It had a lot of stuff in it. This is not reduced down to 7 pages.
But it's clear to people that are in the field what to do, the people that are doing the work.
That's right. And
Is that right?
Yes, and there's also another stack of codes too, the Title V code, that this is more stringent than the Title V code. So this is something that's beyond what's already required, the minimum requirements for Title V. So this is something that's additional to it.
Title V being the state code?
The state
Right,
code,
but the
correct.
state code covers the garbage grinder issue, that if you were to put
Yes.
one in, you have to increase the size of the design, so.
That's right, great. And what you said something really important, if you decided, if you wanted to do, that's exactly what the state says too.
So any comments?
This is very interesting. And we're here because we're looking at that 5th bedroom and hoping that the decision gets made and it can influence our design to be that smaller design. So very interested in the outcome, and but it was super interesting and learned a lot tonight.
You said these are gonna be available on the website so we can take a look at them?
Yes.
When we finally come up with an agreed set of regulations that we'd like to provide to the public. So we're still working on modifying these, so it won't be this weekend. But you're certainly willing to make comments on what you've heard and share them with us ahead of time. We'd love that. You can look at the
I'd
regulations.
rather see it exactly and be able to make an intelligent comment.
So probably looking at it again at our next meeting in a month, and then if we decide that that's what we want to, then we'll post it after that.
Prior to that meeting?
No, I would say no, because I think what I'm hearing from the board is that they want to have their version of what they'd like to have and have that as proposed, and then have public comments of what they did, and then absorb the public comments and maybe go back and change it, and then have maybe a second draft of what they want, and then that's typically a pretty transparent
So
procedure.
we don't feel like we have a draft for you, right?
No, this is what I
Yeah.
gave to them, what I think, so they might change it all, or just say yes or no, or.
Like I said, I had a couple of comments or whatnot based on what I've heard tonight, and if that would help the overall process. You know, that's why I'd like to get a copy as soon as I can to see where you guys are at now, and possibly make some comments before the next meeting or the next round comes out.
Once we have a draft, we're gonna email it to all you guys.
Okay, that's fine.
And if you hear anything tonight, Jim, you want to email the office or myself, I'd love to hear it, and I'll look at it and talk to the board about it.
Okay,
All right, to be continued.
all right, so.
Well, thank you.
Wade, thank you for your time and your guidance as usual.
you.
Um,
For about septic systems and garbage
I
grinders.
had a question, I'm not sure if it's the appropriate setting, but I'll throw it out there. We're looking to add a bedroom. Under the current rulings, we would need that larger septic system. And if we got approval for that, and then before we broke ground, if the ruling was adjusted, could we come back in with a reduced plan? And
So I guess your question is that you have a project going on now, you have the septic design with today's standards, and the interim of you designing what you want to do and approval, and you even get a permit approval, but you haven't installed it yet, and if the regulations go through and become approved, and now the law, I guess you could say, in town, yes, you can go for a revision. Or you can
Exactly,
redesign
right?
it.
I think we're scheduled for our perk test in a week and a half. So we're right on the edge where we're gonna come through with a larger septic system, but hopefully things trend. We head towards a revision, we can come back with a modified plan.
That's correct. Or you can even hold back on the design coming into the town hall until it's changed, if it does change, or if it's not, if it's in your schedule.
At least have urgency, we have a health issue with mother-in-law that we need to get her on that ground floor living, so
Okay.
we have a little bit of
Yeah,
that race condition going on, so.
we'll do our best.
Yeah, no, but this was really helpful, so,
Yeah.
But this was very helpful.
Thank you. Okay, so moving on, update on catch and release signage for ponds. Well, did you get a chance to?
thank you.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
stopping in. Did you want to mention what your names were?
Oh, yeah, I'm Brendan Sullivan, my wife Karen Sullivan. And Betsy's been very helpful providing us a lot of information in the last month or two, so.
She provides all kinds of stuff. Thank you, Brenda.
I think the 25th, I think, of February with John Glassa, John, I guess. So, all right, thank you.
Thank you. So,
So I went to all those places and I took pictures and I emailed them to everybody. Did you not get all my pictures with the email?
this is all I got. Did I get pictures?
I forward, what, if you
Yeah,
send it
yeah,
to me?
it was quite a few
Yeah.
months ago.
No, it
these
was just a
here?
couple weeks ago.
No, these pictures?
No, I actually took pictures of the,
No, was that a few?
This is
I
from
thought it was
Oliver,
months
this is
ago.
from the Mass website.
no, I actually went to those places and took photographs
I don't
of
remember.
the
Yeah,
areas.
remember
Okay.
Lawrence Street, we had a
Yes.
couple of them.
Yeah, and I emailed it to everybody, the pictures of where they were. So what,
Okay.
Betsy
what
was
each
kind to forward it to me also. I
yeah,
got this
what they looked like, so that
Yeah.
we could decide where to put a sign or things like that.
So do you have an opinion about where we should put signs? I do remember an email that said you went to the fishing store, or the bait store, and
Yes.
he said he would definitely
Yes.
post the signage in the
Yes.
store, but I
Yes.
don't remember getting
But I'm
pictures.
not,
Oh,
I
okay.
thought I sent pictures already.
If I could recommend, I've talked to the conservation agent who's out in the woods all the time and told about this, about the notice. And if she had any recommendations where a lot of boats are launched and stuff and where these signs could be put up, if she would like give some type of advice to the Board of Health. She said she'd love to do it, but she needs something in writing to the conservation board themselves so they can direct her to do that. Should she go out there and.
So the conservation agent is not one of the town employees?
Yes, it is.
Oh, who sent this to us?
So these were my pictures. So these were the pictures that I took. Kind of, this is Lawrence Street, these are ones I sent.
Okay.
So there was just kind of looking at where the cars were parking and where
You
the.
want activity where people can be
Yeah.
dropping a line
Right,
into the
so
water.
kind of like the parking area, and then there's a sign there. I thought I sent them to everybody.
You probably did. Okay, I don't
And I
know.
think,
But I guess what I'm saying is how many signs are you suggesting we would post? Because I'm
Well, there were
looking at all
there were
these.
some major ones, so I took all those different places and went to each of them.
10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15.
Well, those
and
are-
I haven't been to all of these places.
These are more just telling you what the streets are. So Comey's Pond is one, City Mills Pond is two.
But I think there were places to park, is what
That's what
she
I,
was saying.
yes.
And also banks where people might fish
Right.
too. That's why the conservation agent would be such a good,
Well, she,
There was-
yeah, so she sent these
Oh, she
maps
did it.
around.
Oh,
Yes,
she already
so that's why I went to these
I didn't know
places.
that.
Right,
oh, I
right.
didn't know
So
that, I'm sorry.
this is Lawrence Street,
Right.
so that was one, so there's places to post it, whether you wanna post it, this is so stupid, I'm sorry. So there they
Actually, I
are,
can pull it up.
yeah,
Oh, nice. And that's where they fish off the bridge,
right.
both sides. So then there's parking right
But
down the
only-
road a little bit.
But I think only one side of the bridge is actually Norfolk, or Bush Pond, which I wanna say is to your right on that photograph. Is that correct, or is it to the left? I always
It's
forget.
to the left.
So-
Well, it depends on which way that's going. Is that
They're-
going
they're
towards?
connected. It's
going towards
That's- oh,
Franklin.
wait, that's going towards Franklin, so
Yes.
Bush Pond is on,
Okay,
I think, on that other
so
side.
that was a picture, so just identifying where potentially a sign could go.
Sure.
So
And
what-
that was the parking area,
Yeah,
right
with a
there
sign right-
also,
right-
with a sign already there. Maybe we could put a sign over there where they park the car. So that was again looking toward Bush Pond, and Park Street is to your left at that point.
Yeah.
And then that's, I wanna say, City Mill, or Comey's, I forget, I put them in a specific order. But that's kind of there's just
It
that
says
little.
Comey's Pond.
Yes, and that's just a little parking area, it's just a little cul-de-sac that people put in, there wasn't much other than that, but we could put a sign there.
Yeah, that sounds a great idea.
And that was so that's City Mills, and there's a sign on that big square thing down the street there's a sign there. So that was the sign.
But you'd want one on like a rod standing up,
Yeah, but I figured I would take a picture so I knew where I was.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this is likely
This is Miller Street.
Miller Street,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, and so again, people fish from the bridge.
Hmm.
Miller Street again.
Yeah. So Gary drove me around. So you
that
can
water
see
was
there's
pretty high.
cars parked over there, and that's like where
There's a walk into the
Yeah.
airport.
yes, exactly, so that's where they're parking too.
Mhm.
And that's
That's on Miller
River,
Street.
is that River Road?
No, still Miller Street.
Still
Oh,
Miller
that's
Street,
Miller,
okay.
yeah, Miller Street,
Up,
yeah.
All right.
Miller Street.
Left hand.
Water's high
corner.
there.
That's,
Lake,
Populatic?
that's,
Populatic Pond, but
Yes,
which street is
exactly.
it? Lakeview, is it?
yeah,
That's a public ramp.
Yeah.
That'd be a great place to put it.
and that's just the further back the street view.
Mhm.
Just the neighbor sounds crazy, so I'm taking pictures of the street. But that's, so those were and that's River Road.
Correct, with the river being on to your left?
Yes. No, I'm sorry, I think the river's onto your right,
Right.
Onto the
and that's,
right.
I was just getting by in the car.
And there's a garbage can there too. A lot of people
Yeah.
visit that
Yeah,
location.
so that's,
There it is.
that's River
Yeah.
Road. And then there are a whole bunch of other little ponds in the area that I'm not sure how public they are and how people can get to them, but those were the public ones that the Conservation Commission identified for us.
So I think that's 6 major ones
Yeah.
that you just said, and then I know
So,
that,
so I guess the next step would be if you decide to go there, you'd want the DPW to put one of those metal poles in the ground, right? So you can put screws in, and then when you get the signs, go out there and then screw them in. And you're done.
so I think, Betsy, did you mention that we could get the signs made somewhere in town by some group?
The Department of Corrections does signage.
So they would do them for us. We actually haven't come up with the exact verbiage.
Right.
Although we
Yes,
were gonna
we can-
use what's on the DPH.
Yeah, we can use the prison. Yep, they'll make him.
We can use what's on the DPH website. We just might,
Oh, there's a pond up by the prison too, right before the waterfall.
There's
Little
and
pond
there's
going
several,
there.
and I named them in the email, there was a bunch that we were just kind of looking at on some maps, that there were just a bunch of little ponds kind of everywhere in the town, but again, it was hard to discern whether people fish there, whether there's actually fish in them, how public, access they are.
Maybe the public would call in and let them know. There's places they do fish. But I think the warning is for the larger bodies of water.
well, to
right?
start with, we could do certainly the 6. I know that Stony Brook they have fishing, because that's Department of Recreation property. It's Mass Department of Recreation property that Stony Brook is on, the Audubon.
Mhm.
And so they would love to have that
That's exciting.
posted there. There are 3 places where people can fish there.
It's very exciting because you
So-
you're warning people of a danger, and
Yeah.
it's really like right now no one knows anything about it if they go there. If
Yeah,
they're
I'm
visiting
saying-
the area.
I threw up Callahan Pond, what else did I throw up?
Phillips Pond, Coolidge Pond, and Harlow Pond.
And again, they just kind of came up on Google Maps.
Right? Crestbrook Pond on Lake Street, Man Pond on Seekonk in Maine, Highland Lake, as well as Mirror Lake.
Yeah, so again, those weren't identified specifically by conservation, so I'm not sure if those,
They,
what jurisdiction the town of Norfolk has about those ponds. I'm not sure you can actually get to them.
Oh, you mean access to?
Yeah,
them.
so there was a bunch of
Oh, that's
just
what I was
ponds that
thinking
people
about.
have put names on, but again, Highland Lake and Mirror Lake, I wasn't sure about either.
And the signs would have to be in public land too, or unless you get permission to put the signs on,
Right.
so that's be looked at upon also.
So that was my.
So, at this point,
Good morning.
thank you.
It was lovely.
I hope it was a nice day.
It was a nice
Looks
day.
like it was
Sounds
kind
like
of
a lot.
dreary, but.
Gary's driving me
Thank you.
around and taking pictures.
That sounds like a lot of fun.
So at this point, though, we probably need to decide. We've decided we want to post signs. We have, I think, 10 areas that, other than these other places. So we could start with the 10 areas. But I don't know how they're going to get posted. I mean, do we need to ask DPW?
Mm-hmm.
Is that something that you could do for us?
Well, I had a fantasy, I guess, I'd have the DPW put the posts in, right? And then maybe call the local newspaper and Fran, have you have a picture of you putting the sign up?
Photo op.
Because it's your idea. Photo op, yeah, absolutely. And this
Well,
is, I mean, if people around here, when you start reading the sign, and start thinking about protecting themselves from the wildlife,
yeah.
because the wildlife, unfortunately, is polluted at multiple, ingestion of the food, that it's a great service you're doing. It's really
Well,
nice.
all of us could do it.
Yeah.
The 3 board
You came
members.
up with the idea.
Yeah, and that way, it will get out there to the public, otherwise they won't
We could
know.
even, we could put a little article in
Yeah.
the Norfolk Random Times.
Yes, get a picture of you putting it up. But I think having a post being done by the DPW, they could do it anytime and let us know it's there, and then when the signs come in, that could be put up, with a bolt and a net at a later time. As long as the posts are up there, the poles are up there, then you're ready to go, rock and roll.
So we want to make sure that the verbiage is what we want on the signs, and we can send it to Betsy, and then at the next meeting say, yes, this is what we're going to have. I mean, we went over this, but it was probably back in October, and it's not clear in my head. So I'd rather look at it one more time before we actually put it down, put them up and have them made. And is there a cost? Will there be a cost?
Oh, yeah. They're not
Is there
free.
something that we
They're
can
not free.
absorb? Are they-
We'll have to see.
So we need to talk about that.
I do have a price list from MassCore
Okay.
upstairs. I was looking to see if I could find
Maybe a
it.
combination for conservation, maybe, who knows?
Well, maybe.
Maybe they have a bigger budget than we do?
Put fees together, yeah.
No, they don't.
Maybe
Recreation, maybe the recreation department.
Recreation, DPW, and Board of Health, and COMCOM.
They're not that expensive. I mean, you're talking, 10 signs maybe?
At least for
10
now.
to start out with.
Hmm?
Yeah, 10, I think they said, yeah.
Or would there be, I mean, some of the places look like they could do one, some places look like they might be on both sides. But, yeah.
Sometimes you get a price at like quantity size, you're like,
I know, you might do.
order 25,
20,
it's like
yeah.
$5 a piece or whatever.
My
But-
parents got some furniture reupholstered at the prison.
Hmm.
They actually have a reupholstering program.
Yeah.
How did you
Yep.
find that out?
Because my dad didn't want to spend a lot of money reupholstering furniture.
Yeah, that's pretty
So he
good.
No,
found
the
that-
gentleman actually just came in maybe a month ago. Actually, I've got I do
Did you
have the
find it on the
catalog right here.
website?
This was a while back.
The gentleman that runs the program actually came in and gave me a catalog.
A catalog,
They were
what
beautiful.
stuff you can find?
That you can do,
That
that they
you-
will
The
work with
math,
the-
that
they'll
mass
do it.
core that they make. They make
Oh.
license plates, they do
Oh.
signs.
I love to look at that.
Reupholstered.
Oh, yeah, I have it if you, and
Okay.
I've got it actually, I found the catalog online.
Okay, so, if you could ask DPW if they would be willing to post the signs once we get them.
I'm sure they
And-
will.
-1.
Ask if there's a cost. You could ask Conservation and Recreation and DPW if they want to
No, we
help
might be
us.
able to- Oh, here we go.
pay for it.
Regulatory and
I don't know.
custom signs.
And we will come up with the verbiage exactly as we want it the next meeting.
Okay. Just give me an idea.
Okay.
Oh yeah, they do all kinds of furniture, Wade.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
No, it was, the only weird part was driving in there to go get my furniture. It was just they were very nice.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, they were always very polite and helpful, and Yeah.
gives them a purpose.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they do
that's great.
silk screening. You can get all kinds of embroidered
T-shirts and things. yeah.
jackets and
Cool.
T-shirts. And
Wow.
Teaches them skills.
Awesome.
So you just will make it.
Okay, so are we good with, I think we've
Yeah.
done a lot of work and we're almost there. For springtime when they start
April,
fishing.
I think April, you start freshwater fishing, you need a license.
There we go.
Okay,
All right, we're good.
all right, Betsy, good. So next, okay, consider voting to establish a revolving account at the annual town meeting for tobacco compliance checks with the tobacco license fee, and that's what this revolving account would use, the tobacco license fees, and discuss tobacco license fee revisions. So, hello. So that was a suggestion I had, that we could fund a compliance agent, if that's the right word, to do tobacco compliance checks, using the permits, which would amount to about $700. Right now, the permits are $700. And I sent you folks, I sent you and Tom, I think Betsy, and I think you forwarded to everyone, that I've contacted an individual who's, I don't want to say licensed, but taking courses on how to be a compliance officer, to do tobacco compliance checks. And she gave me a breakdown of how much it would cost. I think it's about $35, $40. She would bring a youth with her to go in, and sometimes maybe 2 youths, depending upon where she was going. So that's my thought. I mean, we have our food agent who has recently done a compliance check for us, but it's different than sending a minor in to
Right.
buy
right.
product.
So it's roughly, I've got her email here, it's roughly around $300 or so for each compliance check. So if we set up that revolving account, that should cover about two
A year.
a year.
For all of the
Yeah.
establishments that we have,
Mhm.
we have 7, I think.
We do.
Yeah. Now, Betsy forwarded us an email about the state providing some funding for tobacco education and.
There is a,
But that's a little bit different, I think.
well, there was
Betsy.
I sent
A
you
grant.
a grant, opportunity.
For
I
10
thought I might try to apply for this.
For $10,000, I think the
No,
grant
that was different. Maybe.
I think it was for $10,000. But anyway, let's just, maybe we can address one thing at a time. So Betsy, you've already,
I did contact Todd,
so
and he
Who
asked
did you,
for a breakdown of application fees for some of the local surrounding towns, their tobacco application fees.
oh, no, let's not go to the fees yet.
Oh, okay.
Let's just stick with the revolving account.
Okay, well,
So-
that's right, but at that kind of, that's what Todd was asking, what some of the other towns were charging.
Okay. But you know that the state, fees is different than, okay, go ahead, I'm sorry, then.
So, because I told him, I said, if they're concerned that the town's losing some of the revenue, I mean, we talked about perhaps increasing the fees. So just FYI, Rentham charges $55 for their tobacco permit. Franklin is $150. Millis is $50. Medfield is $50. Medway is $75. Sherborne is $200. Bellingham is $400.
For one,
Yeah, Walpole is $150. So they're kind of all over the place.
although the
And we charge-
majority of them are 50-ish.
Yeah, and we charge $100. So,
I think that's reasonable.
So we would have to
Because I-
change our regulation anyway if we were to change the fees, which I don't, right?
no, we
Because
wouldn't
doesn't it
have
say
to.
in the regulation? I mean, we would have
No,
to
I don't think so. Our
make a-
fee schedule, though, we'd have to change our fee schedule.
But the
Okay.
$100 per 7 establishment gives us $700.
That would
And it's
probably,
$300 per check twice a year.
right, so that would just about cover.
Right.
Yeah.
So that
Yeah.
seems reasonable to keep it at $100.
So it's gonna be $700 less in the coffers of the town general fund.
Right.
But I think what we're trying to ensure is public health and public safety here. So I don't think it's unreasonable to ask. So it's not too late for a warrant article, right?
Sent it to Todd. I'm not sure if they're gonna support it or not. I told them that what we wanted to do.
So what would they have a problem with?
Not really sure.
I mean, right,
Well-
that's what we're tasked with is public health, and if we need to take the money from the tobacco and licensing fees to use it to ensure that they are following the rules and regulations,
Mm-hmm.
how would that be a bad thing?
Right.
Well, we might
Right.
have to.
Especially, the times
The
we're
climate,
facing
right, the
and
climate that we're in, right.
the issues that we're facing with tobacco control and so.
So I guess there's just the two of us tonight, but am I hearing that you would be in favor of making this change if we could use the funds for a revolving account?
Yeah,
Is it-
absolutely.
So do we need to
Yeah, why
have
don't
more
you,
of
take a formal vote.
Okay.
It's not gonna hurt.
Okay, so I make a motion that we use the funds for the tobacco permits to establish a revolving account for tobacco compliance checks.
I second that motion.
Two tobacco compliance checks annually,
And I second that motion too.
and to hire a compliance agent to do this.
Yes. Second that.
Okay, and all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so now you know how we're headed with this, and hopefully, if we need to go
Hopefully
and
hopefully
chat
they'll
with him
support.
about it, we'll do that.
So, on that note
Yes.
of compliance checks, you saw my email about, Norfolk Gas in Market?
Yes, that was a very interesting thing to read. Did you see that?
I did. So, the only
So-
thing that I was wondering about is, where did it say? The inspection revealed wintergreen, menthol, tobacco, and nicotine delivery items on display for sale. So were there other flavored tobacco products? So were they the only ones? Do you think they were the only ones? I guess I should have asked you.
I
As he said.
don't know the answer to that question. I didn't even think to ask. But I did know that Mark was going to be around that weekend doing inspections, so I asked him when he was in the retail establishments just to check the, to make sure that everybody had removed all the flavored tobacco products per our regulations that went into effect on January 31st. And this is the only one that was not in compliance. So he actually stayed, he said he hung around for like an hour and a half and ensured that they
Took
took everything off the
shelf.
shelves.
So remember, we modified our tobacco regs as of August 31st. That said, flavored tobacco products, with the exception of mint, menthol, and wintergreen. And then as of January 1st, we modified again and said all flavored
Right.
tobacco products. So did a letter go out to those folks?
Yeah, matter of fact, the gentleman was actually at the public hearing.
Right. So, but they got a letter that said as of January 31st.
They got a letter notifying them of the hearing with a copy of the draft regulation. They all got a copy of the letter that it went into was going into effect, and a copy of the actual regulation that went into effect.
Okay. So, I guess the question was, did we want to fine these folks?
That's the question.
And right now, with our regulations that I don't have in front of me, I don't know what the fee for the first violation
I'm
is.
not sure if it's 300 or not, but.
And just for the record, these are new regulations with the state. The state won't kick in the mint, wintergreen and menthol until, I think it's June.
Mm.
But their fines are huge, compared to what our fines are. I don't have the exact numbers, I'm saying huge, but, so, I don't wanna put a number on it, but they're a lot higher than ours. So, that's something I don't understand completely either. If we were to, in the future, would we change our fines, or would our fines be what the state requirement is? Because they've asked us to act as agents for them, so I'm kind of thinking it would be their fines. And we wouldn't necessarily change our regs, but I'm not sure about that. We'll have to ask more about that.
If you do fine somebody and they pay the fine, does that go into your revolving account for future enforcement actions?
Well, that's
That'd be great.
interesting, because,
Yeah.
Maybe revolving account should
Mm.
have that worded in it.
Mhm.
Any violation fees that you collect goes into that
Right.
revolving account.
because what we made the motion on was just the fees.
Right.
We didn't talk about violations. I mean, for now, we only
You can
need,
amend it.
we could amend it.
So it would just be somewhere the direct money coming into the office, how it would be used.
But, I should also say that, I probably should have thought this through a little bit more. There should be educational opportunities here, and if we could use the funding from that revolving account to help at the schools, for one thing, for tobacco education, or maybe at the community day, or to set up some type of a table with things that are a little bit more than just what we do now. I mean, we had used that at Community Day. We put up information about vaping. But education could be actually having a speaker coming into the schools, and you might have to pay for a speaker. So that money could be used for more than just compliance checks. It could be used for education as well. So if we had more than the $700 in the fund, it may be helpful, going forward. So Betsy's looking up what the first.
I was just checking, checking up our regs, let's see.
So I guess, so do we want to amend amend what I said, that we would use the funding for tobacco permits to also pay for education, and we would also put into this revolving account funds from violations. So I make a motion that we amend our first motion.
I second that.
Okay, all in
Alright.
favor?
Aye.
Okay, so we'll do that. So getting back to this, this was my thought about fining this retail establishment. We gave them all kinds of information about this happening, and this is 1 out of 7 retail establishments that did not comply. My feeling is that we should fine them for a first-time violation.
I mean, I agree, if he was here, that certainly makes sense, that he was part of the discussion and knew what we were talking about. Was there any confusion between what was happening at a local level and happening on the state level? Was he expecting it to actually come into play when the state passed it finally? It'd be interesting to maybe talk to him first.
Well,
I don't know the
again,
answer.
1 out of 7
Right.
establishments
Right.
didn't get the message.
If I may, if you're going to act upon one of your permitting companies or applicants in town, should at least have a show cause hearing, so they can come before you, and then you can have a conversation. And then after, if you feel it's justified, then fine them.
So just so you know, the first violation, the fine is $300. The second violation is $300 in revocation of their tobacco sales permit for 7 business days.
So,
Or suspension of the tobacco sales permit for 7 days.
and then the third
The
is?
third or more within a 24-month period, a fine of $300, and the tobacco sales permit shall be suspended for 30 consecutive days.
So I guess that is a fair thing to do, is to send the retail establishment a letter asking them to come in and explain to us why they
Mhm.
had a problem
Okay.
understanding the regulation.
We'll invite
As-
him to our next meeting.
Sure, and then we can determine how we'll handle it going forward. Thank you. Okay, that's fair.
Yeah, my only question about kind of the last paragraph of this was reviewed CBD product law that does not allow any CBD products that can be ingested, consumed, noted to remove for sale. So does that say he actually had some that were for sale? That was interesting.
So
I didn't
we-
maybe understand that part of that was actually, that he actually had some CBD products that were for sale.
How, do we have regulations against CBD products in the town? I mean, what are we talking about? Are we talking
No,
about?
but that's state regulated though.
I think so.
Not
Yeah.
if it was, CBD oil.
Yeah, I don't know what the
I-
CBD laws are.
No, I don't either, so we can look into that and
Okay.
have that. Maybe we can ask Mark to explain that for us for the next meeting.
Sure.
Thank you for remembering that. It can be ingested and consumed.
Okay.
Noted to remove for sale.
I'll ask Mark. I'll send him an email.
Okay. Well, the other thing that this compliance officer would do, I had a telephone conversation with her. There are lots of new signage that has to be posted because of the vaping laws, the state vaping laws, and they have to be posted at certain levels, and many more than what we have. And the products have to be behind, any nicotine products have to be behind the counter, right now they're kind of up front. So the new state laws are very complicated. I think I sent you folks the website
Mm-hmm.
on DPH for that information, which I don't have in my head 100% to explain it all back to you. But I did listen to an audio conference on it, so. Anyway, okay, anything else under, so Betsy, let's go back to the grant, because we didn't really talk about the grant.
So
From
there were a
DPH.
couple of different grants. I'm not sure what you were talking about, but the one
One
about
for
the tobacco
yeah,
compliance.
Yeah,
I
I
don't know.
think the date had gone by.
It could have actually.
Oh, that one was from me.
They don't make it easy. I'm just gonna tell you that.
Oh, here you go. So this is Massachusetts Tobacco Cessation and Prevention Program. Notice of Opportunity, Municipal Board of Health Tobacco Programming. The
Oh, yeah.
Massachusetts Department of Public Health Massachusetts Tobacco Cessation and Prevention Program has announced the opportunity for municipalities to apply for emergency contracts with the Commonwealth of up to 12 months to support immediate needs surrounding municipal tobacco programming infrastructure and addressing the vaping emergency, changed legislative climate and vaping epidemic with long-term goal of creating sustainable local tobacco control programs. So it's,
Yeah, so this one here has to be submitted by the February 20th. I was gonna try to submit it.
yeah, I'm not quite sure, and who would do the work on it, I guess is what I'm saying. What we would do with it. This is the bid. So, it's just happening too fast for me. I think they already had an opportunity once, maybe we can look into it.
I was gonna try and fill out this application and submit it
Okay,
tomorrow.
why not?
I don't know.
That's
It's not
fair.
gonna
Why
work.
not?
Okay,
You can say no.
Yeah, exactly.
okay. Okay, anything else about the tobacco compliance checks, et cetera?
Yeah, just point of interest, I noticed that your fee for your violation also supports an inspection. So that would probably be a good argument to have the fee going back into your revolving account, so you can have a compliance check during, like, say for a 10-day suspension, you'd have your personnel go in there during some time in a 10-day to see if they are following through.
Mm-hmm.
And that violation would support that work. And that'd be a reason why you'd want it into your revolving account, rather than
Right,
going
right.
to general fund.
Right, that's right,
You just keep on rotating
Yeah.
it back.
because we're gonna have to make an extra
Yes, make sure they're following
inspection. It
through.
would be in the general fund. Right now, it's going into the general
Yeah,
fund.
but you need it for your people.
Right, okay. Okay, we ready to move on?
Sure.
2019 annual fund. Not annual fund, annual report, I'm sorry, it's getting late. Did you have any comments about it? Nope. The only thing I was thinking about, Betsy, so, under appointments, how come it doesn't say VNA? Does it usually say that? Or that's not important, because I know we.
It's a contract.
Oh, it's different. Is it different?
Yeah.
Okay. I just was wondering about the VNA. We didn't really say too much about how the public health nurse supports us at the Board of Health. And I think they do, right now, Alyssa attends meetings with us for emergency dispensing site plans, and she works with the senior center, and I'm not sure.
If you'd like to,
She looks at,
did you wanna just draft up a paragraph and send it to me and I'll insert
sure,
it?
when does this have to be in? Does it have
Oh,
to be
last week.
All right. I'll just give you some
I
bullets.
submitted it, but I'm sure they haven't.
I just thought we would give them credit, like she
Sure.
reviews the infectious
Yeah.
disease report for the town.
Yeah, if you wanna send me
She did.
just,
Well, those were
like a
the-
one little paragraph,
Okay,
cause I'm trying to
okay.
keep it to one page, so I think we can do that,
Okay,
so,
It's probably listed in the contract, your activities.
yeah, we're not gonna get too
yeah.
too wild and crazy, 'cause.
No, I would just like to give
Yeah.
specific ideas of, helping us with the flu clinic. Okay, I'll try and get that done for you.
That'd be great, and I'll insert that.
Okay. Was there anything else?
No, just, it was interesting when you get some of these numbers.
Oh, actually, I keep it, no, it's not even one page, it's 2 pages.
Yeah, it is 2 pages, yeah. It goes in a book,
It goes in, the town's annual report.
which I've looked back on over the years.
Yeah,
It's
I
kinda
keep
cool.
them all, I have a whole
Okay.
case full of them.
Okay. Anything else?
That'd be great.
Okay.
And I do notice that, Our next meeting, I had put down here the 24th, but then I realized we've got an MRC meeting that night, so
Oh,
we can, do you wanna go to the following week, the 31st of March?
Let's, so the MRC is hosting a CPR course.
On Monday,
Monday,
this
the
coming
24th of February.
24th.
This-
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, this coming Monday.
Okay. So the 24th. So what did you say, Betsy? What would we want to do?
So the one,
I think we want to
So I
make
think
sure
the
we don't want to miss another
third,
meeting.
so technically the third Tuesday, which is is the 17th. But that's St. Patrick's Day. I don't know if anybody had any big plans.
Well, on a Tuesday.
March 17th. No, I don't have any plans right now.
Do you
so-
wanna go the 17th?
Sure,
I don't have any plans either.
okay. So, Board of Health.
Try to keep it the consistent third Tuesday of the month if we can.
Okay. The only, I do have a problem with April 21st.
Okay,
I'm not gonna be here,
that's
so.
all right. How about the 28th?
Sure.
Okay.
Do you have any,
I already have the
Vacation?
Board of Health meeting on the 28th. Who knew?
Okay, all right.
Gee.
I may have put it out there for the 28th, but
Yeah,
then I
I
was
do
going
too.
through the calendar and said, oh, well, the 23rd, I know we were trying to keep it the third Tuesday.
okay,
So I may
the
have changed that.
28th.
So anyway,
28th, and then
the May 19th is the third Tuesday.
May 19th.
Does anybody know what happened to Tom?
He never responded to my text.
May 19th.
All right. And
Okay.
then June 16th.
Okay. Okay. I'll make this really, okay, we're good?
Yeah.
All right.
All those dates work with everybody else. Look, I wrote BOG, it's supposed to be BOH, really?
Let me just maybe write that, okay, Board of Health is. Okay. Just to let you know quickly about the MRC, we did attend, Betsy, myself, Alicia, our public health nurse, Detective Canadian as our police representative, and
And the fire chief.
and the fire chief, Chief Kinney, as fire representative at our EDS tabletop workshop, and it really went well. It was 3 hours in Sudbury with Public Health Emergency Preparedness Coalition group, and there were six towns, I don't know, 6 towns. We sat, everybody got questions, different people answered from their towns. We learned a lot about communication. This was mainly about first responders, how we would address first responders in a, if we had to open up an emergency dispensing site clinic, and how we would communicate with them, how we would bring their families in. It was really good. And the police representative and the fire chief were really helpful, and they're on board with working with us. And so it's to be continued, because there was one more workshop that was going to be given by this group, and then they were going to send us out a summary of all of the comments by the different towns, so that we can incorporate them into our own plan going forward, what works and what doesn't work. So that was good. And then, as I mentioned before, the MRC is hosting CPR course on
Monday
Monday?
night.
And did you get any response from the newspaper?
I got 2 actually, and I told both of them that the at the moment the class was full. If a spot opened up, I'd let them know.
Okay.
You know, if they were also still interested, was a possibility we would try to run another class in the
So
future.
is that really just limited to 12? That's one way to stick in.
12 per,
You have to-
they would have to get another,
Yeah.
Oh, that's
another
interesting.
trainer, so, yeah.
All right. I mean, Gary and I signed up, but I can unsign up if you really want 2 different people to come in. I mean, that's fine. I don't mind if people take my place.
Well, the thing is, it's really supposed to be for MIRC volunteers, and I don't think these 2 folks are. We
No.
could ask them to.
Right, I did, one of the ladies, I did send the information that if she
Okay.
was interested, I sent
You're
out the
so
link to
good.
Mass Response
Mhm.
to register, explain the process, sent the query form that she'd have to come in and have me verify it, so I'm not sure if
How
she
that
did
goes.
or not. So that was just, I think,
Mm.
last week.
Yeah, I was thinking if we got 10 more people, then we would ask the region if they would sponsor it, and we would see if we could get these folks hooked up as well to the MRC. But 2 people is, yeah, wasn't, we'll see. Okay.
I was asked to do a pet first aid presentation, the one I did for the MRC at the MRC meeting in Waltham
Yep.
on May 9th.
Yep.
So I'll be doing that.
Oh, awesome.
Yep. And then Hillary and I have been working on the pet emergency preparedness plan for the town emergency preparedness
Oh,
plan.
yeah, all
So we met and we picked a form and she wrote in some stuff and then I typed everything in red and sent it back to her. So we're working on that.
Okay, good. And we did host, Karen, one of our MRC volunteers, gave a presentation on trauma during sheltering, or actually, yeah, during any event that can lead, you know.
Was that
Be
the
an
the
emergency
mental
event.
health?
Yes.
Yeah, we wanted to say trauma, you know, training.
Okay.
So, anyway, it was good, it was really good, and we really we're lucky to have her, and we hope maybe in the future we'll do it again when we have a bigger audience, so.
Mhm.
Okay.
And I think you
Stop the bleed.
Stop the bleed.
Yeah. So Will Rigdon from the rec department, apparently they managed to get some money from, I forget where he
The
said.
I think from the rec.
Oh, okay.
Was it from the rec
So they got some
department?
AEDs and they got some stop the bleed kits.
AEDs are pretty
They're
expensive.
very expensive, yeah.
Yeah.
So we were talking about putting together a training program for the people who would be using those on the field, so
Right.
coaches or.
So that's why I wanted to talk to you about doing a class, because, you know, we had supplied, Stop the Bleed kits here, the library.
Yep.
COA and the highway department, and I'd like to try and have a class or a couple of classes.
Sure.
To train some of the employees.
Mondays work for me.
Mondays would be, and how long is it? Is it just like an hour?
Probably just an hour, they've really shortened it up.
Okay, and I can see if we can get approval to, you know, maybe you take an hour for lunch and get some of the, talk to the town administrator and open up the class to some of the employees. Is there a maximum number of people?
Well, I think we can get a couple of, like, we have an MRC volunteer, but he might be working in the daytime. I mean, I could help,
I think we
because
just have
I've
to-
been trained.
Yeah, we just have to get some
We can
Limbs?
get,
limbs.
yeah, well, we can get them from Framingham.
Prosthetics.
Yes.
Not real ones.
Limbs.
I think we could get them from Framingham.
Yeah.
And,
Is that something the fire department would have? Did they have somebody that does
These
training?
are just, I'm not sure, but yeah, they're just, you went, have you
I
done
know,
it?
I haven't taken
No.
the class
So just
yet.
kind of pieces of, looks like a tree trunk with some holes in it that, you know.
Squishy.
Yeah, they're kind of squishy, so you can stuff the,
gauze.
yeah, into the
Anything.
impalement
Sure.
things, and then you can put on the tourney around it and see how tight you can make it and stuff. It's really, they're not that gory, but you just
Okay.
need the limb thing to practice.
They're
Okay.
realistic.
But Roberta
How many do we
could
need?
get them.
Probably
Depends
like,
on how
yeah,
many
probably put like
people.
3 or 4 people on one limb. So we
Right.
need about how many.
Okay. All right, well, maybe we can work on that then. Get a class.
I think Roberta Cole could get them
Yeah,
for us from
we had a
Framingham.
conversation with somebody, I can't remember what it was now.
We'll make it happen if you come up
I
with
looked
the
into
time.
buying some.
Yeah, I mean, if,
Yeah.
maybe like in April, some Monday in
Sure.
maybe April.
I think we had put, as we planned ahead for the future, I actually have the 24th scheduled at the library as a Stop the Bleed, but I don't think we're gonna have enough time to, March 24th meeting. Let me see, but I don't think we're gonna have enough time to plan for it. I said Norfolk Town, yeah, 7 o'clock. So, unless that was April. Let me see, maybe that. Oh, actually I have April 25th, 9 AM, Stop the Bleed at the town, at the library.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, we have to talk about that, so we'll have the March
Okay.
meeting to get the word out on that. Okay, anything else, new business? New business, no. I don't have anything. Betsy?
Nope, I've gone over everything.
Okay.
Oh,
And
no.
thank you for staying for
Just
our
trying to help.
meeting. You always have some great comments to help us with.
Oh, thank you, appreciate that.
Okay,
All right.
so we're gonna meet on
March 17th.
March 17th. We'll all wear our green. No, I'm not Irish, even though my name is Sullivan. I don't know.
Is your husband Irish?
It's been that way for a lot of years. So, can I make a motion to
Sure.
adjourn?
Do I make a motion to adjourn?
Perfect.
Okay, I second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Adjourn 9:07.
Okay.
Okay.